So, Brad, fantastic to have you here with us. We've got a lot to talk about, but let's kick it off with a project that you've been quite involved with. You've been advising Google on their autonomous cars project. And I wonder if you could just start off by telling us a little bit about that, where things are actually at the moment with that, and perhaps what the blockers are, how long it's going to take to hit the streets.
So about 6 years ago, I met Sebastian Thrun, who came to lead the project at Google, but he had been one of the leaders in that field, and I became amazed at just how important cars were in our lives, and how dramatic it would be if computers and cars merged, and suddenly the computer became the most important part of the car. So I got involved in it, and then was invited to help advise Google's team, which is, I think, the team that's ahead right now in that race. Sergey Brin of Google has said that he thinks people will be riding in these cars, customers will be riding in 2017. Now, and Elon Musk actually decided to beat that and say he'd be selling a car in 2016. Mercedes-Benz and BMW have, not BMW, but Mercedes and Nissan have both predicted 2020 that they'll be selling these cars to people. And Mercedes actually has a car now, the fall 2014 S-Class, which will drive itself in a traffic jam, but you have to pay attention. It's like the cruise control. So this technology is real, it's coming, it's going to change the world in ways that people have really not yet imagined, because cars are such a huge part of our life. Even in Europe, 84% of all the passenger kilometers are done in cars. I know we like to think of everyone being green and riding on the train all the time, but it's not the truth. We have a video actually of the DARPA challenges and the Google project, and I will walk you through it if we can. So the military in the United States did a contest, and they asked people to build these vehicles. And the first contest was a complete failure. Nobody got more than a few kilometers. My friend Anthony, he tried to enter a motorcycle, and he forgot to turn part of it on. But the second contest had 5 winners go 150 miles through the desert, empty vehicles going down desert roads and going down steep ravines. This is Stanford's car, which was the winner of that race, doing a little trek down a ravine. Now, this is back in 2005. This is quite some time ago. Google decided to hire the winner of this contest and the winner of a later contest for city driving to make a new generation of vehicle. So here's an image of a car coming to the finish line. This is Chris Urmson, the chief engineer. He pushes the button in the car, and you see it driving down the streets of Palo Alto, California. They've taken these cars now over 1 million kilometers on ordinary city streets, making left turns at stoplights, yielding to people. Google has thanked these people for participating in their research. Seeing the world actually in a very different way from humans, in 360 degrees, in 3D all the time. So you can see the scan lines as it identifies things. So they've taken the car in all sorts of places, through the busy streets of San Francisco, and the left turns, and the traffic lights, and joggers, and stop signs, and going through the toll booths on the Golden Gate Bridge. They've taken the vehicle down the entire coast of California. This is one of the pretty coastal towns there. They've taken the vehicle on windy mountain roads and had it interact with things which scare human beings, frankly. It sees the same day or night, which is actually kind of useful in certain cases. For fun, they decided to take it down what they call the windiest street in the world, Lombard Street in San Francisco. I don't recommend this speed. This is actually sped up a little bit on the camera view. And other teams have done things like, Google's actually done this, merging onto a highway, which is actually quite difficult. This is the Stanford team teaching their car to park in a way I don't recommend you actually park. So, as I said, 1 million kilometers, and then they've done about 150,000 kilometers recently with no safety incident whatsoever. That's not quite as good as a human being. Human being goes about 400,000 kilometers before they have an accident, but it's getting close. So I just want people to realize this is not science fiction. This is coming out this decade, and it's going to become a majority of the cars in the 2020s.
Now, there's been a little bit of criticism recently about the predictions, the more bullish predictions perhaps on timing there, based on the issues of cost, getting the components down to a reasonable cost, and also regulation. Across various countries, are people going to allow this? I mean, do you think this, the talk of, 2016, 2017 is correct, or do you think 2020, as Daimler has been predicting, is a bit more likely?
It's always difficult to say, and when people ask me when will they be available, I often say, June 23rd, 2018 at 4:32 p.m. Central European Time. That's to let people know that it's kind of ridiculous to make exact time predictions. The reality is, all the teams doing this are very focused on safety. In fact, they believe, it's remarkable, 1.2 million people are killed every year in car accidents around the world. In the United States, 2.5% of the GDP, about 8 cents per mile, about 12 to 13 cents per kilometer, is the cost of accidents, more than the cost of petrol or benzene in an efficient car like the Toyota Prius. It's absolutely astounding. So everyone is focused on safety. They think they can do something akin to curing a major disease in terms of saving lives. And the goal, therefore, is make it safer than a human driver. So they won't release it until they've met that safety goal, that they can convince other people of it, convince themselves of it. So there is no date. It's rather a goal of make it safe enough. Now, the cost is actually, Elon Musk is showing that's actually not very relevant. People seem to be lining up to buy the Tesla no matter what it costs. But the truth is that electronics technologies which are expensive today are very quickly cheap in the future. That is, Moore's Law is kind of the gospel we teach at Singularity University. Maybe we overshow the slide of the exponential curve going up. But it's remarkable. What costs thousands of dollars one day is available with a Hello Kitty brand for $20 in a girl's toy just a few years later. And the laser sensors right now are experimental and very expensive, and cameras are cheaper, but the lasers do much better, and I can predict they'll be cheap soon.
Okay, so I mean, this whole idea of the autonomous vehicle fits very well in with, I guess, the evolving idea of smart cities. In terms of being able to automate traffic, I guess. Just run us through some of the advantages that you see coming out in that regard.
Well, saving lives continues to be the big thing. But if you start thinking about transportation not as a vehicle, but as a service, so kind of like Uber. Have you got the Uber taxi here in Vienna, or you have it in some European cities? I used it in London. So something like that, transportation as a service, you change how people buy their cars, or rather how they choose what car they'll ride in. Today, most people go to a car dealer and they say, what car do I need for my life? And that's because they think, I ski twice a year, and so I need to have an SUV that can take me up into the mountains. Or I haul cargo for friends, once every 2 years, I must have a pickup truck. This is how many people buy cars, especially in the US. And in Europe, I'll admit, people do buy them a bit smaller. But they still ask this question, what cars do I need for my life? And instead, if you change the question to what car do I need today? What car do I need right now? Suddenly, the answer is very different. In fact, the answer for over 80% of all trips is a very small car for one person, because that's all there is in most trips. A car that's maybe only 1.5 meters wide that fits 2 to a lane. So you can suddenly change the economics of energy in cars and use much less energy, not just much less energy than the cars we're driving today, but believe it or not, less energy than our transit systems use, because they, as it turns out, are not as efficient as they think. Now, the next thing is vehicles like this don't have to park. They would do what's called standing, or they would go off if they're taxis and go pick up someone else. And because they don't have to park, you don't need to have parking lots anymore. So the amount of land that we've devoted, especially in suburbs, not so much in the core of the city where we are here, but in the outer regions of cities, we've devoted immense amounts of land to cars, and we won't have to anymore. So suddenly, all sorts of land is going to be freed. Yes, we'll also reduce congestion through smart tricks, and we're also going to change delivery, because you can deliver in small little vehicles. That's what the military actually wanted with that contest. We're also going to give freedom to a whole class of people who don't have it today, people like the disabled. You have the other video actually up. Why don't we roll a little bit of that video and see a vision of sort of door-to-door errands going on.
Good morning, Steve.
Hey, Nathaniel, how are you?
Doing just great.
Go ahead, Steve.
Auto driving.
So Steve just pushed the button there, and the car is taking him off on his errand.
Look, Ma, no hands.
No hands anywhere.
No hands, no feet.
No hands, no feet, no nothing.
I love it. So we're here at the stop sign. Yep. Car's using radars and laser to check and make sure there's nothing coming either way. I find myself looking. Old habits die hard, man. They don't die. Hey, anybody up for a taco? Yeah. What do you want to do today, Steve? I'm all for Taco Bell myself. All right. Well, let's go get a taco at the drive-thru.
Taco Bell is a really dreadful restaurant, by the way.
And we're turning into the parking lot. How neat. Here we go. Now we kind of creep along here. Does anybody have any money? I've got money. No, I've got my wallet right here. You'd roll down your window and order a burrito. Yeah, push that up. I'm doing very well. How are you today? This is some of the best driving I've ever done.
95% of my vision is gone. I'm well past legally blind. You lose your timing in life, everything takes you much longer. There are some places that you cannot go, there are some things that you really cannot do. Where this would change my life is to
Oh, actually, the video's long, so we'll cut it off at this point.
To go
you can shut it down.
Want to go and need to
Thank
go.
you. So, of course, as you see, the little hook there is that Steve is the head of the Blind Center in Santa Clara Valley. And there's a whole group of people who actually don't have mobility in this world today who will also see it come from this. And by the way, this includes all of you. I know you're all young right now, but trust me, you're going to get more decrepit in a few years, and you're going to be wanting this technology.
You've been told. So let's talk about the flip side of all of this, and it's something that you're in a great position to address, being on the board of the EFF as well. That car, what data is it sending back to the data centers? What if somebody tapped into that? Could somebody watch that they couldn't watch in the days of just a bog standard unconnected car?
Well, no, it's true. When you do software development, you always want to log everything so that you can fix the bugs. So these vehicles, while they're in development, record everything that goes on. They don't have a camera normally facing the driver for this video, of course they did. And there will be a temptation to keep doing that forever because software is never out of development. There's no question of that. So it's possible that this taxi of the future will indeed, like Uber does already and like these other services do, have a record of where you go and where you went, as unfortunately our cell phones are also doing for us. And that's a concern. So I actually have pushed that we think a bit about how to bring back, the anonymity of a taxi trip that we have today. And I don't know if I'll succeed, actually, but I would like to. But there's definitely a temptation. We just, as computer scientists, we have this instinct never to throw away data. And it's not a good instinct sometimes. It actually leads to negative consequences for privacy. And of course, it's not that the spy agencies would ever look at all this data or try and read it without warrants. We know that that can't happen in free countries. You're supposed to laugh at that. But it does happen, of course. It happens not just when this technology is sold into China or Saudi Arabia, but it happens even here in Europe and in the United States and Canada. So I do worry about that. I don't know easy solutions. I will say that this particular project, because of the huge life-saving consequences, I am more tolerant of the privacy implications when we're talking about saving millions of lives than I'm tolerant of the privacy implications when we're talking about getting a coupon for 10% off a latte. Right.
Sure, but there are a lot of applications for new sensors, the Internet of Things, etc., that all have positive benefits. I mean, it starts off with Fitbit, etc., with people sending more information so that they can get healthier. And you're starting to get things like connected toothbrushes, that chide you for not brushing long enough. All of these things have benefits. What techniques do you think should be applied to, as you say, kind of retain the anonymity of the world we know today?
So I believe it is often possible, and there's a philosophy called privacy by design, which is advocated in the privacy community and occasionally sneaks its way into the app development community, but not so much. And that philosophy says you do want to start from the beginning thinking about that. I believe that when you have a trade-off like this, we all remember, of course, the terrible events 13 years ago with the World Trade Center. And after that happened, there was one step that was taken, which actually helped improve the security of aircraft and didn't affect anyone's rights at all. And that was making the door of the cockpit reinforced and stronger so people couldn't break in. And again, that didn't do anything to privacy. And I believe that metaphorically that solution exists in many other problems, but it's harder to find. And I think we just need to start demanding and insisting to people, work a bit harder. Don't just assume, it's very convenient and easy to put all of our data in the cloud and let it be analyzed there. And as a software engineer, I know all the attractions of that. But I'm calling on people to do some things that are a bit harder to find ways to protect that data. I think the world actually needs to find a way to something halfway between what we've given to today, where we just put everything in the cloud and we have no more protection on it. In fact, in the United States, the constitutional protection the data in your house has vanished when you put it with Facebook or Google. So I think we need to find some marriage halfway between that and the old world we had, where we had a PC on our desk and our data lived in that computer and we downloaded software to work on the data for us. And if that software were to upload the data to some company and report it, we would have called it spyware, and we'd have had a tool that deleted it from our computer for daring to do that. And isn't it amazing that not that long ago we had these anti-spyware tools, and today we've just said, yes, here, know everything about me. I think there is a marriage in between those two, and there are people working on it, but it's harder. And I guess the call is we have to do a little bit easier than things that are a little harder than the obvious solution.
Okay. I suppose even pulling back from that whole idea, I mean, you were a veteran of Usenet, and you've watched the whole idea of connected community grow. Where do you think it goes from here with things like that, and also with events such as the NSA scandal? Do you think that that's going to make people less open? Do you think people don't care and they just, do you think people actually care about whether their car is telling people that they've gone, a mile over the speed limit, etc.? Or do you think that people have now generally crossed some kind of Rubicon?
Well, when it comes to the speed limit, there are actually many examples of that. There was even a court case in Canada where a truck driver sued to have his constitutional right to freedom was being deprived by a speed limiter in his vehicle. They tried to put them in the United States, and also they were pushed back. So people actually care about that one a lot. Unfortunately, that might be an anomaly. It might be less so. People have been shown that they will give up their privacy for very simple things. That people give their email password out for a little chance to win an iPod. Very disturbing. What happens actually is that people aren't concerned about that privacy until after they see an invasion. So right now we're seeing this right now, and so for some reason the German government wasn't particularly upset that the United States was spying on millions of Germans, but when they were spying on the Chancellor, suddenly it's a big deal, or the President of Brazil, or other people who we've now seen that they're doing it. Edward Snowden didn't actually tell us anything we didn't know. We knew that was going on. We have been suing the NSA for 5 years over doing this. What Mr. Snowden provided was the proof that we need to help win our lawsuit, and that's very good that he's provided that proof. But the world is waking up, and people are now looking to get more secure protocols in their computers. Very subtle pressures moved us towards having a web which is almost entirely unencrypted. Most of you are advanced, you know what HTTPS means in the search bar or in the URL bar of your browser versus HTTP. And the truth is, a huge fraction, even 20 years after those protocols were designed, and 20 years is a long time on the internet, we are still mostly sending all of our web traffic in the clear. And that's disturbing because spies and other people, even the kid in the coffee shop next to you, can be watching what you're doing. And people are finally realizing that, and I'm actually, in a bizarre sense, thankful for that.
Okay, so you think, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but you think that there are technical ways to make this less invasive than it might otherwise be, the whole autonomous vehicles, and there's also a policy part that has to be played there as well. Is that a correct assessment?
I'm not as much of a fan of policy as maybe Europeans would be. I'm Canadian, but I live in the United States, and the joke we make is that in Europe, the government has to know everything about you so that it can protect your privacy. Again, that's supposed to be funny. So the policy approaches tend to create a lot of bureaucracy, and the ad hoc approaches tend to create a lot of risks of invasion. There's no perfect solution. But we have been focusing on technological solutions. We financed a tool called Tor, which lets people get true anonymous use of the internet. We've financed a tool we've released a plugin for your browser that will switch you over to the secure web on sites that do support it, and many sites do support it. So we believe people should have more of that. And I believe there should be encryption with what I call ZUIs, Z-U-I, Zero User Interface. The only real successful stories in encryption have tended to be ones where the users didn't know it was even going on. And to paraphrase Dr. Einstein, I think all systems should be as secure as is easy to use and no more secure. Now, oddly enough, that's good news for the spies in some sense because these less secure systems are easier for them to break. But the truth is, having everybody use no security at all is really easy for them to break.
Okay. We've got a few minutes left, so are there any questions from the audience or from the magic screen up there? Okay, so the top question there is, you've been working... Oh, have I? I should read
You've been working
I should read it before I read it out loud, shouldn't I?
They're changing them.
Okay, so the top question there is, the goal is less accidents. What kind of accidents did the car have previously? What about accidents caused by people? Are they also measured in your goal?
So the Google cars have not had an accident while they were driving themselves. I mean, unless you count all of the cars in the contests, had little early stage things where they ran into curbs and so on. But out on the street, they have a system to make sure that there aren't any such accidents. Obviously, people will be driving along with the self-driving cars, and those people will do things that can cause accidents. You can't eliminate that. But over time, the number of accidents will reduce, and that's going to be a win for everyone. There are going to be legal battles. The barristers will try and make sure they can make money off of this somehow. But nonetheless, if you reduce the number of accidents, you actually save money for everyone, because individuals who cause accidents don't pay for them. We all pay for them. We pay insurance premiums. We pay more for our cars if the car companies get sued. So it's always us who pay, and it's us who will save.
Okay, there's another really interesting question there. Will self-driving cars become so efficient that we won't have to own them at all? Will they transform traffic in a way that the cars will become easily available on demand?
I do believe that. Now, I think that there's not one answer to whether we'll own them or not. I think that some people will want to own a vehicle and have it live near them and come and pick them up when they want. And then, admittedly, I'm guilty of this myself. There's a lot of stuff in the boot that you want to have with you. There are solutions to that. So some people will want to own. Some people will say, why should I own a car at all? I'll just hire it by the mile and get a good price because I'm not paying a driver. And some people will actually own a better car, and then when they are working, they'll let that car go out and make money for them and join a taxi fleet. So the market will decide which of those choices people like, but it will be more efficient. We'll need to have fewer cars parked because we'll share them among more people. We'll still need to make just as many cars, actually, but other things will become more efficient, and they will indeed, I believe, come within a minute or two. So they'll be better than going and fetching your car from a car park.
Great. Brad, we probably ran out of time there, so thanks very much for the chat.
Thank you.
Please give a big round of applause for our gentleman.